Hello and welcome to today's Wholehearted Living podcast episode with your host Deb Thorpe, and today we are diving into the topic of scarcity versus abundance, what they both mean and how we can switch our mindset and our whole being from scarcity mode where we are in fear and we move to abundance where we are in love. So let's dive in. So today's episode, I wanted to touch on this concept of the scarcity versus abundance mindset, because no doubt you will have come across this a few times in a few different ways. And I just wanted to either introduce it as a concept to you if you've not come across it before, or just kind of act as a reminder if this is something that you have come across before. So it's very much linked with our nervous system and this concept that we are either in a state of fear or in a state of love when we are making certain decisions and think in certain ways. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit through this topic with you today so that you can see where you are on this scarcity and abundance concept, and also how you can shift from one to the other. So there's been quite a few times in my life when I've entered that real scarcity state. And by that, I mean it tends to be when we are encountering some form of scarcity in our life, whether that be financial or work or relationships, people, there will be some trigger of fear within our system, which leads us to then act from a scarcity place. So if you've ever been in this place, you will recognize it as almost like the pressure. You feel that intensely. So suddenly everything feels like it's limited, like you have to somehow make something happen, or suddenly you're finding that you feel like you have to compete for limited resources in some way, or and this works across lots and lots of different areas of our life, right? Hence why this impact can be quite significant, because we can end up in a place where it's kind of driving our very primal fear-based instinct, rather than us operating from this higher consciousness where we're making more aligned decisions with what is true and authentic for us. So when we're in scarcity, everything can feel like it narrows down a little bit. So the pressure feels like it's applied. Everything our whole field of vision starts to narrow. And it's within this that we then start making decisions that are coming from a place of survival rather than thriving, which there are certain times in life where we need this. Okay, hence why everything that I'm introducing you to through this podcast and the way that I work with clients, it's never to try and get rid of or demonize like certain parts of ourselves. Okay, we need our very animalistic, very human survival part of us. Okay, we wouldn't be here without that. So we're not here to try and somehow ascend beyond that. There are times in life when you need that instinct. Okay, when you are in a true survival situation. However, that response can get triggered so easy in things where it's not a life or death situation. Now, I have been there at certain points in my life. There's a particular point I remember where a decision that wasn't aligned was made for my old business, and it went wrong very, very quickly. And so the financial pressure was huge. We were at the stage where basic bills couldn't be paid. I had debt collectors knocking on the door. For anyone who has had that experience, it's one of the most stressful experiences I've been through, of all of the stuff that then gets tied up with that, of the failure, the shame, the trying everything possible to make something work and it's just not working, and resorting on being, having to go with like begging bowls in hand to friends and family. So there's a lot of stress and pressure in that moment. Now, my body went into total survival, and in that moment it felt like a life and death situation. Now, it's not at the end of the day, right? I mean, what the irony of all of this is that there was so much fear in the lead up to the repercussions of not being able to pay things, and then the thing happens that you're most dreading, the debt collectors knocked on the door and stuff. And then you have a conversation and it's like, oh, okay, actually, the thing that we feared now, the thing that is the worst thing that could happen has happened, and we've survived it and we're okay. And from that moment onwards, because I could almost be released from the fear, because, I had to, God, this is going back years ago now, I had to sell my car, right, to pay for the outstanding debt. So, this by no means was an easy thing to go through. But once that had happened and it was like, okay, well, I'm still alive and I'm still here and I still have my partner and my family, and that's what matters, that freed me from the fear of the impending doom. And from that point onwards, then I could begin to access that higher level of thinking that enabled me to make the decisions that were more aligned, that got me back into that abundant place, right? So I actually recovered from that place financially far better. And so, there are times when it really genuinely feels very warranted that this scarcity mindset gets triggered, because everything in your physical world, maybe not even everything, just one part of your physical experience in this life at the moment is scarce. It's feeling scarce. And one of the harder things to do is to acknowledge that and still be able to tap into the fundamental abundance that's inexistent in the universe. And I really struggled with this concept in the beginning. And so I want to just give you some pointers that really helped me, because all I remember hearing from people is, well, just look around you. Everything is abundant. There's your evidence that the universe is abundant. And the thing is, I didn't see it that way in the beginning. Right? I would look around and see so many people who were struggling in the world, where there were places in the world that were experiencing genuine scarcity of food, of resources, of medicine, of basic hygiene supplies, right? I really couldn't switch my brain into this concept of abundance. And as is the way for me, nature is my guide on a lot of these things. And I remember hearing someone say that when an oak tree, for example, is at the stage where it's dropping acorns and it's, literally getting ready to help start up more oak trees, it doesn't just release one, right? It releases literally hundreds and hundreds. And I began to really look into this as a concept in nature, that nature is, in that sense, so abundant. We have, if we take the whole planet, we have an abundance of resources. Now, going into whether they are utilized correctly or in the best way, that's a human problem. That's a people problem, right? But in the fundamental of life, nature is geared up for abundance. And that's down to repopulation, that's in the flowers that are produced, the fruit. There's huge abundance. Like, that's a natural state of the universe. And when I could look at it from a nature point of view, then I could begin to tap into this abundant state. And that, we are part of nature. It makes sense that we are also wired for that natural state. I think it gets complicated, as most things do with human beings, because we complicate what we then associate that abundance with, right? So, part of me developing the WholeHearted Living Institute was this whole concept that we want wholeness and fullness in all of the areas of our life. I'm not interested in a world where someone has an abundance of money but is totally and utterly poor and deprived of love or connection or purpose or fulfillment. That makes no sense to me. And I think we can get caught in what we are associating and believing abundance to mean, and we miss the thing that it's really about, which is all of the inner stuff. If our outside experience is something of a mirror of our inner world, then that can give us a good indication as to what's going on internally. But there is this whole concept that you get to craft and tap into abundance that is aligned for you. So I've encountered people, and I would put myself in this category right in this moment, whereby my life feels unbelievably abundant in like every way, in terms of love, connection, relationships, the sheer beauty of the landscape I'm in at the moment in northern Italy, opportunities, so much abundance. And I can really rest in that and actually not go into scarcity when it comes to money, because at this moment in time, that's not my driver, that's not my main focus. It's to ensure that I'm accessing all of these other, really going deep into all these other areas of abundance, because that for me is the key to the wholehearted life, where you feel free and fulfilled. The money side of it is a tool and a mechanism that can be used to live out even more fullness, right? Or contribute even more in the world. It's not the thing that makes the abundance. There's been so many studies and research done of lottery winners and people who have come into money quite quickly, and that's not the thing that's making them feel abundant or fulfilled or happy. So I'm just introducing you here through this episode of, can we shift our mindset and our perception of what abundance is, and can we really start to embrace all of the ways in which we do experience abundance in our life to help us shift from that scarcity. So I remember being introduced to a really powerful tool quite a few years ago now, whereby this particular coach was talking about freedom and saying that, most people want to experience freedom for themselves and in their life, but they will spend a lot of their day consumed with how they don't feel free and how they're not experiencing freedom in their life. However, if you get to choose the exact minute that your alarm clock wakes you up in the morning, that's freedom of choice. If you have more than one item of clothing to wear, you are experiencing freedom and abundance of clothing. If you get to choose from more than one mug to drink your favorite morning drink from, that's freedom, that's abundance. And yet we very often will overlook a lot of these things because we're focused on the bigger meaning of freedom and abundance. But I had this conversation with a client the other day of, it's in the small things in life that if they suddenly weren't there anymore, we would feel them the most. And, this is coming from someone who, was beyond having no money at some point, and yet could really settle into what matters is the love and the relationships, and everything else can fall away, and that's okay, because what really matters is here and safe and important, and that there was like a refocus, I guess, in all of that. And what we want to do here is not have to rely on a near-death experience or a significant loss or a big life crisis to happen to make us really focus in and understand what's important in life. We want to be able to go through our day and be aware and actively choose that. And so there's my invitation for you today, is to become aware of where you might be experiencing scarcity in your life and what you can do to shift into a state of abundance. I focused on money a little bit in this episode because that tends to be where people experience a lot of scarcity. It also happens around love, right? If you believe there's only one person that is going to be your special person, and you can experience scarcity around that. So we might then look at love as being a frequency that is in existence across the whole entire universe, and we can tap into that at any point. And so if we can be in love, if we can be in that feeling, in that frequency, then it doesn't matter whether there's someone there with us or not experiencing that with us. And it also means that we are going to be naturally surrounded by people who are also on that frequency, right? So play around with this concept a little bit. See where you might be experiencing scarcity. Where can that be shifted to abundance? What is it that can help you to tap back into your higher self that part of you that can make decisions from a thriving, what's best for you capacity rather than a survival situation. Because if you are in scarcity, making decisions from that place, generally speaking, just creates more scarcity. So we have to be able to tap into the higher self, the more aligned self, in order to find the way through to thriving and abundance. And also, just to invite you as you go through your day to become aware of abundance in your own life, in all of those little day-to-day things. The choice of drinks, of food, of cutlery, of clothes, of things to watch on TV, of where to walk, of become aware of your choices, and really truly you will have an abundance of them throughout your day. And as you bring your awareness to that, just take a moment of gratitude for the abundance of choice, the freedom of choice that you are experiencing as you go throughout your day, and allow this to become a practice so that it doesn't have to take a traumatic event or a really significant life event to make us stop and really think about what's important to us. Okay, that's what we're going for here. Okay, so there's my invitation for you today. Let me know what's your experience of the scarcity and abundance mindset, and what questions it raises for you. I'm by no means, I've got this whole topic sorted. It's a huge topic, but it's one that I've worked through in my own way. I've had my own struggles with it, and I know what it is to move from scarcity to abundance. So do let me know, and I look forward to joining you on the next podcast episode. Bye for now.